Welcome, friend. My name is Betty, your guide to this sleep meditation bedtime story. Tonight we embark on a journey through a captivating murder mystery set in the enchanting world of 1930s high society. As you drift off to sleep, let your imagination weave its way through a gripping tale of intrigue, secrets, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, allow the worries of the day to fade away. Imagine yourself transported to a bygone era where grand mansions shrouded in mystery stand tall and elegant parties vibrate in sophistication. Step into the shoes of Detective Teddy Sullivan, a brilliant investigator with an unyielding commitment to justice. Tonight you are about to unravel a perplexing murder mystery that has shaken a city to its core. You'll find yourself face to face with the enigmatic Lady Penelope Montgomery, her striking eyes betraying secrets she keeps hidden from the world. You sense the weight of her emotions and the complexity of her character as you engage her in conversation, seeking answers to the puzzle that unfolds before you. As you continue your investigation, you uncover a clandestine affair that leads you deeper into the world of deception and hidden desires. The scent of intrigue lingers in the air as you follow the trail of clues, each revelation bringing you closer to the heart of the mystery. As you delve into the minds of the characters, you become immersed in a tale of love, betrayal, and the pursuit of justice. The nightscape of this 1930s world holds countless secrets, and your mind becomes a canvas for this captivating story to unfold. Now, as you drift deeper into relaxation, allow the journey to continue within your dreams. Let the story guide you through the intricacies of this gripping murder mystery as you unravel the truth behind Veronica Sinclair's tragic end. It was a gloomy autumn night in 1930s New York. The cobbled streets glistened with rain as Detective Teddy Sullivan trudged through the dimly lit alleys towards a grand mansion on Fifth Avenue. Inside, a heinous crime had taken place. The lifeless body of wealthy socialite Veronica Sinclair was found, leaving the city's high society in shock. Veronica Sinclair was a woman of immense wealth and social standing in New York. Born into a privileged family, she inherited a vast fortune from her parents, who were prominent figures in the city's high society. However, Veronica's upbringing had instilled in her a sense of responsibility and a desire to make a positive impact on the world. Despite her opulent lifestyle, Veronica was not content with merely attending glamorous parties and indulging in extravagance. She had a keen sense of justice and a deep desire to help those less fortunate. This philanthropic spirit led her to establish numerous charities and contribute significant funds to various social causes, such as orphanages, hospitals, and educational institutions. Veronica was not content with just writing checks. She actively involved herself in the causes she supported. She spent time visiting the beneficiaries of her charities, lending a helping hand, and engaging in personal interactions with the people she sought to aid. This hands-on approach earned her the admiration of many, even beyond the upper echelons of society. However, Veronica's altruistic endeavors took a turn when she stumbled upon evidence of corruption and criminal activities within the very circle she moved in. She began to suspect that some of the city's most influential figures were involved in illegal dealings, and their ill-gotten wealth was being used to fund their lavish lifestyles and gain even more power. Determined to bring these criminals to justice and protect the city she loved, Veronica decided to take action. She started investigating the dark underbelly of New York's elite society, gathering evidence discreetly and sharing her discoveries with a select group of trusted confidants. It was during this time that Veronica became involved in the secret philanthropic organization known as the Enlightened Hearts Society. The society was founded decades ago by a group of wealthy individuals who shared a common goal: to expose and combat corruption within the city's upper crust. The organization operated covertly, and its members used pseudonyms to protect their identities and prevent retaliation from those they sought to unveil. Within the Enlightened Hearts Society, Veronica found kindred spirits who shared her passion for justice and reform. The members were carefully selected, ensuring absolute trustworthiness and dedication to the cause. They met in secret at undisclosed locations to discuss their findings, strategize their next moves, and plan ways to bring down the corrupt individuals manipulating the city for their own gain. Veronica played a vital role within the society, using her vast resources and connections to gather information and protect her fellow members. Her status as a prominent socialite allowed her to move unnoticed within circles where conversations about the illegal activities were conducted in hushed whispers. She would relay these conversations to the society, providing valuable leads for their investigations. As Veronica's involvement deepened, so did the danger surrounding her. She knew that exposing these powerful criminals could have severe consequences, not only for her, but also for her loved ones. Despite the risks, she was driven by her sense of duty and the desire to create a better, more just society for all. Unknown to Veronica, her growing reputation as a relentless investigator had not gone unnoticed by the very people she sought to expose. As Teddy Sullivan would later discover, it was her relentless pursuit of truth and justice that led to her untimely demise. As Detective Teddy approached, the mansion's imposing facade loomed before him, shrouded in a cloak of mystery that matched the somber atmosphere of the moment. He was greeted at the entrance by the butler, Mr. Jenkins, a man in his late 50s, with silver hair and carrying aura of formality. With a nod of acknowledgement, Teddy followed Mr. Jenkins into the opulent study where Veronica's lifeless body had been discovered. The room was bathed in soft light filtering through heavy burgundy drapes, casting elegant, elongated shadows across the polished mahogany floor flanked by antique books. Teddy took a moment to survey the scene, taking in every detail, every nuance that might provide a clue to the identity of the killer. The butler stood quietly, his hands clasped behind his back, as Teddy began his inspection. He meticulously examined the study, noting the positioning of furniture, untouched belongings, and the absence of any signs of a struggle. The room seemed eerily preserved, as if frozen in time, adding to the puzzle. The murderer seemed to have been familiar with the layout of the mansion, suggesting it might have been someone known to Veronica rather than a random intruder. Furthermore, upon inspecting the body, Teddy noticed signs that the killer had employed a degree of skill and precision. Veronica sustained a small wound on her head. The presence of blood in the study indicated that Veronica had been attacked there, but he couldn't help but wonder why there were no other signs of struggle or forced entry. As Teddy delved into Veronica's background, he discovered that she was a member of a secret philanthropic organization, the Enlightened Hearts Society, which aimed to expose corruption and crime within the city's elite circles. This revelation added a layer of complexity to the case, suggesting that Veronica's death might be connected to her involvement in unveiling the dark secrets of the city's influential figures. As Teddy continued his examination, he asked Mr. Jenkins probing questions, seeking to understand the events leading up to the discovery of Veronica's body. "Mr. Jenkins, can you walk me through what happened on the night of the murder? Did you hear or see anything unusual?" Mr. Jenkins shifted slightly, his normally composed demeanor showing signs of unease. I was preparing the dinner in the kitchen when I heard a loud thud from the study. I rushed to investigate and found Mrs. Sinclair lying there lifeless." Teddy noticed a slight hesitation in the butler's voice, but he couldn't be certain if it was due to grief or if he was holding something back. Teddy pressed further. "Did you see anyone else in or around the mansion that night? Anyone who might have had a reason to harm Mrs. Sinclair?" The butler paused, seeming to carefully consider his response. "No, Detective Sullivan. The mansion was quiet that night, and I didn't see or hear anyone else." Teddy kept a mental note of the response, listing potential witnesses to interview later. As the inspection continued, Teddy's mind raced with possibilities and theories, each piece of evidence weaving a tapestry of an intricate and layered murder mystery. He vowed to leave no stone unturned and bring justice to Veronica Sinclair in solving the enigma that had left the city numb. First on the list of suspects was Sir Reginald Sinclair, Veronica's estranged husband, a notorious gambler who had fallen into deep debt. Veronica's sizable inheritance was an alluring motive for murder. The interview between Teddy and Sir Reginald took place at the Sinclair mansion a few days after the discovery of Veronica's body. Teddy had requested to speak with Sir Reginald to gather information about the victim and any potential motives for killing her. As Teddy entered the opulent mansion, he was greeted once again by the butler, Mr. Jenkins, who led him to the study where Sir Reginald awaited. The study was adorned with antique furniture, luxurious carpets, and an aristocratic ambiance that was characteristic of the Sinclair family. Sir Reginald, a man in his mid-40s, was seated behind an ornate mahogany desk. He appeared composed, but Teddy could sense an underlying tension in his demeanor. Teddy, donned in his classic dark trench coat and fedora, took a seat opposite Sir Reginald, placing his notebook and pen on the desk. "I appreciate your willingness to speak with me during this difficult time, Sir Reginald," Teddy began, offering a sympathetic nod. Sir Reginald slightly inclined his head in acknowledgment. "Of course, Detective Sullivan. Whatever I can do to assist in finding the person responsible for this detestable crime," he replied, his voice tinged with sadness. "I understand that you and Mrs. Sinclair were estranged," Teddy said gently, choosing his words carefully. "Could you tell me about your relationship and any recent interactions you might have had?" Sir Reginald's expression tightened slightly, but he remained resolute. "Yes, Veronica and I had grown apart over the years. We had differences in our views and priorities, which led to our separation. However, we remained civil for the sake of appearances and our daughter, Amelia." Teddy made a mental note of Sir Reginald's response, recognizing that there might be unresolved issues between the couple. "I see. And have you had any recent disagreements or conflicts that could have escalated into violence?" Sir Reginald's eyes narrowed, his hands clenched briefly before relaxing. "No, Detective Sullivan. While our relationship was strained, I can assure you that I had no reason to harm Veronica. I may have been distant, but I would never resort to violence." Teddy maintained eye contact, watching for any signs of deception or discomfort in Sir Reginald's body language. However, the man's words appeared genuine, making it difficult to pinpoint any reason for murder. "Can you account for your whereabouts on the night of the murder?" Teddy asked, shifting the focus to gather alibi information. "I was at a poker game with some acquaintances from the club. It was a routine game. We played every week," Sir Reginald replied, his tone steady. "Anyone who can vouch for your presence at the game?" Teddy inquired. "Indeed," Sir Reginald nodded. "The club members are all well acquainted with one another, and they can confirm my attendance." Teddy jotted down the information in his notebook to remind himself to verify the alibi with the club members. He knew that he would need solid evidence to definitively rule Sir Reginald out as a suspect. As the interview continued, Teddy probed further into Sir Reginald's relationship with Veronica, any potential grounds he might have for wanting her dead, and any other pertinent information that could assist in the investigation. Throughout the interview, Teddy observed Sir Reginald closely, searching for any inconsistencies or signs of guilt. However, Sir Reginald remained composed and cooperative, making it challenging for Teddy to draw any concrete conclusions at that moment. Teddy concluded the interview by expressing his gratitude for Sir Reginald's cooperation. He assured him that the investigation would be thorough and unbiased, promising to keep him informed of any developments. As Teddy left the Sinclair mansion, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. The mystery surrounding Veronica's death deepened, and Teddy knew he had to continue his relentless pursuit of the truth in his quest to bring justice to the victim and reveal the secrets that shrouded her passing. Next on the list was Veronica's closest friend, Lady Penelope Montgomery, an enigmatic woman with secrets of her own. Teddy discovered that Veronica and Penelope had been at odds over an undisclosed matter, but again there was no evidence of foul play. Their meeting took place in Lady Penelope's elegant townhouse. Teddy arrived at the appointed time, carrying an air of confidence and determination. Lady Penelope, a woman in her late 30s, was strikingly beautiful, with cascading chestnut hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. Her piercing brown eyes held a mystifying allure, often leaving others intrigued yet uncertain of what lay beneath her composed exterior. She was dressed impeccably. A deep blue evening gown accentuated her graceful figure, a symbol of her status and refined taste. As Teddy was ushered into the drawing room, its space exuded elegance and privilege. With plush furniture and a grand piano in one corner, framed paintings adorned the walls, displaying landscapes and portraits, including one of Lady Penelope herself, clad in a regal gown, looking every bit the socialite she was known to be. Lady Penelope rose to greet him, extending a gloved hand with a warm but measured smile. "Detective Sullivan, thank you for coming," she said in a velvety, sophisticated voice. "Thank you, Lady Penelope, for sparing your time," Teddy replied politely, shaking her hand and taking a seat across from her. Teddy began the interview with a few routine questions, aiming to establish a rapport with Lady Penelope before delving into more sensitive topics. As he asked about her relationship with Veronica, he noticed a subtle shift in her physiognomy. Lady Penelope's eyes momentarily flickered with an emotion that was difficult to read, but she quickly regained her collectedness, offering an eloquent response. "Veronica and I had been friends for many years," she began, her voice balanced. "We were inseparable during our younger days, but over time our paths diverged. We had our disagreements, as close friends often do, but I would never wish any harm upon her." Teddy observed Lady Penelope's body language, noting a slight rigidity in her shoulders as she spoke about the disagreements. He could sense an undercurrent of stress beneath her cool pretense, but he needed more evidence before drawing any conclusions. As the interview progressed, Teddy broached the topic of Veronica's involvement in the Enlightened Hearts Society, a subject that seemed to pique Lady Penelope's interest. Her eyes darted slightly, indicating that she was aware of the society, but she maintained a mask of nonchalance. "I'm aware of the society, of course," she replied, her tone casual, "but I wasn't involved in any official capacity. Veronica was always quite secretive about her endeavors." Teddy pressed further, inquiring about any recent disagreements or conflicts she might have had with Veronica. As he did, he noticed a subtle change in Lady Penelope's symmetrical face. A slight twitch in her eyebrow and a fleeting look of uncertainty in her eyes suggested that there might be more to the story. "I cannot deny that Veronica and I had our differences," she admitted, her voice softer now, hinting at a vulnerability beneath her poised exterior. "But our friendship was stronger than any disagreements we may have had." Teddy noted the response, recognizing that there might be unresolved issues between Lady Penelope and Veronica. He gently probed further, aiming to uncover any potential intentions that might have led her to commit the monstrous act. Throughout the interview, Lady Penelope maintained her calmness, but Teddy could sense the indistinct undercurrent of emotions beneath her carefully crafted facade. He knew that he needed to tread carefully, as she was a woman skilled in maintaining control over her feelings. Teddy concluded the interview, thanking Lady Penelope for her cooperation, and assured her that the investigation would be meticulous and impartial. She nodded politely, her expression stoic, revealing nothing of what lay beneath the surface. As he left Lady Penelope's townhouse, Teddy knew he would have to dig deeper, unraveling the complex web of secrets and emotions that surrounded her and Veronica. Their meeting gave him a glimpse into this enigmatic woman's world, but was aware that the truth often hid behind layers of deception and was determined to uncover it. Weeks had passed, with the investigation seemingly losing traction. On one chilly New York night, Teddy was in his small office, feet up on his desk in deep thought, looking out the window, viewing the cold, dark streets below. Then he heard a slight wispy sound, like a brush of the floor. He quickly scanned the room to see where the sound came from. It was an unmarked envelope slipped under the door. The handwriting was elegant, yet slightly hurried, adding to the intrigue surrounding the message. Inside the envelope, Teddy found a single sheet of fine parchment, sealed with a ruby wax seal imprinted with an intricate symbol. Teddy carefully broke the seal and unfolded the parchment. He discovered that the letter was written in a cryptic code. The arrangement of symbols and characters suggested a level of refinement beyond that of a simple prank or idle curiosity. Intrigued, he recognized that this was no ordinary letter. The code presented a challenge, and Teddy set to work deciphering its meaning. He spent several sleepless nights poring over books on cryptography, ciphers, and ancient languages. Each symbol held a hidden message, and the deeper Teddy delved, the more he realized that the author had gone to great lengths to protect the letter's contents. Finally, after tireless efforts, Teddy managed to crack the code. The letter revealed a message that shook his very being. It read, "To Detective Sullivan, in the shadows the truth lies concealed. Beware those you trust, for darkness festers in the heart of the city's elite. Seek the key that unlocks the secrets of the Enlightened Heart Society. The answers you hunt dwell within their sacred halls. Follow the trail of corruption, and you shall find the path to justice. But be warned, for those who strive to expose the truth may find themselves ensnared in a web of deceit and treachery. Time is of the essence. The city's fate hangs in the balance. Tilda." A friend in the shadows. Teddy paced up and down his bijou office, knowing full well gaining access to the Enlightened Heart Society building was no easy feat. The organization was known for its strict secrecy and exclusivity. However, Teddy was a creative and deductive thinker. He was a detective after all, and a darn good one. He quickly filed through his extensive directory of contacts. "Aha!" he shouted. An affectionate smile appeared across his bearded face as his eyes fixated on a name. "Bobby Ann," he softly uttered. Bobby Ann was an attractive woman from Brooklyn who he met a couple of years ago in a speakeasy on the outskirts of Harlem. They hit it off instantly as the chemistry between them was palpable. They had a whirlwind romance, but unfortunately it fizzled out as she had to leave town for a while. Thankfully, they both tenuously stayed in contact. She was highly connected with people from across the social spectrum, from two-bit hoodlums to figures in the upper echelons of the city's hierarchy. This was due to her flirty, fun but no-nonsense character, which she developed working in the hospitality industry over the years. Teddy hadn't spoken to her in over a year. He hoped the number in her file was still working. He managed to get a hold of her and explained the situation, and if she knew someone that could get him into the Enlightened Heart Society building. She talked about a highly anticipated gala event hosted by the society taking place the next week. Due to her connections in the hospitality business, she was owed a favor by a prominent boss of a waiter service that provided waiters to socialite events. They agreed that Teddy could pose as a waiter for her contact's company, which would completely nullify any suspicion by the society's security. As Bobby Ann's contact, although not a member of the society, was closely affiliated. Then suddenly Teddy hit his desk in frustration. "What?" Bobby Ann inquired. "One of the guests who will most certainly be there will clock me," Teddy resentfully answered. "You need a disguise, hun," Bobby Ann chimed, her mellifluous Brooklyn twang resonating through the phone speaker. "I'll let you know where and at what time the waiters are meeting, all right, gotta go." And with that, Teddy was left pondering what he could do to change his appearance. It was a few hours before the gala. Teddy had got the instructions from Bobby Ann where to meet the group of waiters, a side door, 20 feet from the main entrance. He stood in the quaint bathroom of his Astoria apartment, staring at the reflection of the man in the mirror that he barely recognized, instilling the confidence that he might just pull this off. His dark beard gone, revealing a strong chiseled jaw, his brown locks cut low, and wearing fake spectacles he found in his office drawer from a previous case he had solved. The night was tepid, the air cool. As Teddy arrived at the Enlightened Hearts Society, its regal building stood as a majestic testament to the hidden power and influence of its members. Located in the heart of the city, the imposing structure was constructed with grandiose architecture reminiscent of the Gilded Age. Its facade was adorned with intricately carved stone sculptures and elegant marble pillars, exuding an impression of grandeur and nobility. He couldn't help but feel slightly awed by its majesty. As he approached the side entrance, he caught a glimpse of the sophisticated folk entering the building dressed in the finest garb. He was greeted by a tall, thin man with neatly trimmed, mousy brown hair and a prominent nose that seemed to stick up in the air without him trying. "You're cutting it fine, kid," he said commandingly. He had a reputation for being drill sergeant-like, especially at events like this. Teddy was last of the servers to arrive, completing a line of waiters anticipating one final inspection. After a stern pep talk from the head waiter, they were given sterling silver trays to put stylish glasses filled with champagne upon. Teddy stood tall, assuming the posture of the other waiters, head up, shoulders back. As he stepped inside, Teddy was enveloped in an atmosphere of elegance and sophistication. The interior was adorned with lavish tapestries, gilded furnishings, and impressive artwork. The impeccably dressed members all moved gracefully through the grand halls, engaging in hushed conversations that was distorted further by soft classical music played by a live band. As Teddy meandered through the groups of attendees, he tried to discreetly eavesdrop on some of the hushed conversions being held. However, he had to be cautious, as the society's members were adept at maintaining secrecy and shielding their true intentions from outsiders. Across the hall, as Teddy went to the kitchen to get a refill, he noticed Lady Penelope across the vast room. Their eyes met. This was the make-or-break moment. Teddy remained calm. Lady Penelope seemed perplexed for a second, then continued conversing with an extremely well-dressed gentleman who seemed a little annoyed by her. That was close, Teddy thought. On returning to the grand hall with a full tray, Teddy noticed Lady Penelope quietly slipping away from the main hall, heading towards a dimly lit corridor. Intrigued by her sudden departure, Teddy made an excuse to one of his colleagues and asked to hold his tray while he pretended to tie his shoelace. Luckily, his colleague was summoned for more drinks. Being professional, he obliged, which left Teddy to discreetly follow Lady Penelope. Besides, the invitees were engrossed in their elitist discussions. The corridor led to a well-concealed door guarded by a mechanical keypad. Teddy watched as Lady Penelope entered a code, and the door opened with a soft click. Quickly memorizing the code, Teddy waited for her to disappear to leave the room and return to the party before making his move. Stepping inside, Teddy found himself in a small private library filled with ancient tomes and leather-bound volumes. The room's ambiance oozed occulted intellectualism. Teddy had a hunch that this was the epicenter of the Enlightened Hearts Society's operations. Searching for any clues that might link the society to Veronica's murder, Teddy meticulously examined the bookshelves and furniture. His attention was drawn to a locked drawer within a mahogany desk in the corner of the room. Suspecting that it might contain valuable information, he took a closer look and noticed the buttons on the mechanical keypad did not have numbers but symbols. He quickly reached into his pocket to browse the mystery letter and saw the symbols matched and realized that this was the key. He punched in the sequence from the letter into the keypad. It worked. Inside, he discovered a hidden compartment containing a leather-bound diary with an emblem resembling the Enlightened Hearts Society's symbol. Carefully flipping through its pages, he found Veronica Sinclair's punctilious handwritten entries detailing her investigation into corruption and the society's connections. While she was alive, Veronica's journey into the dark world of corruption began with small clues and whispers that she noticed during her social engagements and charity work. Gradually, she started connecting the dots and unearthing the ugly truth that lay beneath the glamorous surface of New York's elite. One of the first pieces of evidence she stumbled upon was a set of financial records from a charity she had supported for years. Upon closer examination, she discovered discrepancies in the funds allocated to various projects. It appeared that a significant portion of the donations meant for helping the underprivileged had been siphoned off for personal gains by someone within the organization. This revelation deeply disturbed Veronica. Knowing that the money she had generously contributed had been misused for selfish purposes. Digging deeper, she uncovered evidence of embezzlement and bribery involving prominent businessmen, politicians, and law enforcement officials. Certain powerful figures were receiving kickbacks and bribes to turn a blind eye to illegal activities and protect the criminals within their ranks. This revelation left her feeling betrayed by those she had trusted and shattered her belief in the inherent goodness of humanity. Perhaps the most shocking revelation was finding evidence of human trafficking, wherein young women and children were being smuggled into the country and forced into labor or even prostitution. The sheer cruelty and exploitation of the innocent horrified her, and she realized that the corruption she had uncovered extended far beyond financial misdeeds. It touched the lives of the most vulnerable members of society, leaving them defenseless against the cruelty of powerful individuals. Driven by a sense of justice and empathy, Veronica felt an overwhelming responsibility to right these wrongs and seek justice for the victims. She could not bear to stand idly by while innocent lives were destroyed for the gain of heartless criminals. Each piece of evidence she discovered fueled her determination to expose the corrupt and dismantle the web of deceit. However, Veronica's pursuit of truth and justice was not without its emotional toll. The more she learned about the extent of corruption, the more she felt a sense of hopelessness and despair. The enormity of the task ahead of her weighed heavily on her heart, and she often found herself questioning whether one person could truly make a difference against such a powerful and malevolent force. Yet, despite the emotional burden, Veronica knew that she could not turn away from the truth she had uncovered. She was driven by an unwavering drive that society could be reformed and that even the most powerful criminals could be brought to justice. Teddy safeguarded the diary and knew it was a powerful tool to bring justice to Veronica and expose the corrupt forces that had silenced her. With the evidence in hand, Teddy quietly made his exit, concealing the diary securely on his person, ready to embark on the next phase of his investigation. The next day, Teddy was in his office, intensely leafing through the diary. certain information stood out about a charismatic and affluent businessman, Richard van der Linde. Richard was the owner of several successful businesses, including a chain of upscale hotels, high-end restaurants, and exclusive nightclubs. His charming comportment and philanthropic activities made him a respected figure in both social and business circles. Unknown to the public, Richard had been involved in a web of corrupt activities for years. Through her discreet conversations and gathered intel, Veronica learned that Richard was the mastermind behind an intricate system of bribes and kickbacks that allowed him to maintain his luxurious lifestyle and expand his empire without drawing too much attention from the law. One of the most significant bribes Richard employed was directed towards the city's zoning board officials. By securing their favor, he could bend the rules to his advantage, obtaining permits and approvals for construction projects that would have otherwise been denied due to zoning restrictions or environmental concerns. In return for their cooperation, he funneled substantial sums of money into their personal accounts, carefully hidden behind layers of shell companies and offshore transactions. To gather evidence of this particular bribe, Veronica utilized a network of trusted informants who had connections within the city's administration. These informants secretly passed on documents, ledgers, and even photographs showing incriminating money transfers and interactions between Richard and the zoning officials. Veronica scrupulously analyzed the evidence, cross-referencing with other known activities to establish a clear link between Richard and the corrupt officials. They also discovered that Richard had established a network of middlemen to handle the transactions, ensuring plausible deniability and limiting his direct involvement. This intricate system of bribery helped Richard maintain a perception of legitimacy, making it difficult for righteous law enforcement to trace the illegal funds back to him directly. As the evidence piled up, Veronica knew they were dealing with a cunning and resourceful adversary. Veronica's investigation brought her dangerously close to exposing Richard's corrupt activities and knew she was treading on dangerous ground. However, her fearless determination to seek justice for those who had suffered under Richard's exploitation fueled her courage and resolve. Teddy had an epiphany. He swiftly opened his filing cabinet drawer that was full of old newspaper clippings. He frantically rifled through like a dog digging for a bone. "Yes," whispered loudly. He slowly walked towards his office window, the lukewarm midday sun rays lightly caressing the window frame. It was an old article about Richard and his accomplishments in business and industry, with a picture of him receiving an award from the mayor. Also in the background of the picture, he noticed Lady Penelope. Teddy had seen him before, last night, in fact, speaking to Lady Penelope at the gala. Could it be that they were seeing each other? Richard had been married for several years. It wasn't uncommon for prominent men to have mistresses, and they seemed pretty close at the gala despite Richard's annoyance. A few days had passed, as Teddy needed to make sure all the evidence he had was copacetic. However, he needed one last interview, Richard van der Linde. A day before his meeting with Richard, while Teddy was preparing questions for the interview, he received a phone call from a mysterious older lady. He was told to listen and not interject. She spoke quietly and smoothly, with a very matter-of-fact tone. She explained in detail that Richard developed an obsession with Veronica. It was a rainy evening, and a charity event hosted by the Enlightened Hearts Society was taking place at a prestigious venue. The mood was jovial, with the city's elite mingling and engaging in conversations about philanthropy and societal matters. Among the attendees were Richard and Veronica. By this time she was already separated from her husband. As the night wore on, the atmosphere became more festive, and the effects of champagne loosened tongues and inhibitions. Richard, under the influence of alcohol, found himself becoming bolder in his actions and words. At some point during the event, Richard made a sexual pass at Veronica. Emboldened by the glimmer of attraction he still felt towards her, he approached her like a predator cornering its prey in a secluded area away from prying eyes. Veronica, startled by his advances and aware of their complicated history, immediately pushed him away, her eyes flashing with anger and betrayal. She made it clear that she would not tolerate such behavior and firmly rejected his advances, reminding him of his marriage vows to his wife. The rejection was a harsh blow to Richard's ego, and his inebriated state only charged his frustration. He struggled to accept her rebuff. His actions that night revealed a darker side of his character, one driven by self-importance and resentment. Then the distinguished elder lady hung up, adding another critical piece of the puzzle in Teddy's investigation. Teddy realized that the web of relationships and emotions among the key players in this case ran deeper than he could have imagined, and gained the feeling that he was closer to solving the case. The next day, Teddy was buoyed with confidence entering a prestigious building in the heart of Manhattan overlooking Central Park. He was ushered into Richards's office to find him sitting by the window, gazing out at the rain-soaked landscape. The businessman's normally confident aura seemed clouded by an air of unease. Teddy approached with a respectful yet firm manner, ready to delve into the heart of the matter. "Mr. van der Linde, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I understand this must be a difficult time for you, but I hope to find answers that can help bring closure to this tragic event." Richard nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting Teddy's. "Yes, Detective Sullivan. I want to know what happened. Veronica was a wonderful, kind, giving soul. I can't believe she's gone, and I can't fathom why anyone would do this." "I understand, Mr. van der Linde. We're doing everything we can to find the truth. Let's start by discussing the charity event early last month. Can you tell me about your encounter with Veronica that night?" Richard's expression tightened slightly, a hint of discomfort twisting his features. "I don't remember much about that night. It was a crowded event, and there was a lot of champagne flowing. We might have had a disagreement, but I can't recall the details." "I've been informed that you made a pass at Veronica during the event. Can you shed some light on that?" Richard's jaw clenched, looking away momentarily, thinking how the hell Teddy knew this, before meeting Teddy's gaze again. "Look, I was drunk and I acted foolishly. I made a mistake and I regret it. But Veronica and I worked through it. We were trying to move on from it." "Were there any other conflicts or disagreements between you and Veronica recently? Anything that might have caused tension between you?" Richard hesitated, clearly wrestling with his emotions. "We had our share of professional disputes. However, like many in our circles, I had a lot of respect for her and the philanthropic work she did for the city." "Did Veronica ever mention anything to you about her investigation into any strange business activities or any corruption in the charities she funded?" Richard's eyes widened in surprise, seemingly caught off guard by the question. "No, she never mentioned anything like that to me. Veronica was passionate about her work, but she kept her investigations private." "Did you know about her connection to Lady Penelope Montgomery? They were close friends once, but there seemed to be some tension between them." Richard's expression darkened, his gaze hardening. "Their friendship was in the past. I had nothing to do with it. Mr. van der Linde, I need your full cooperation in this investigation. If there's anything you're holding back, it's essential that you tell me now." Richard took a deep breath, visibly grappling with his composure before finally speaking. "I swear, Detective, I don't know who could have done this to Veronica. I was very fond of her. I would never hurt her." The interview continued, with Teddy skillfully probing further into Richard's past, with Richard completely oblivious to Teddy's possession of Veronica's diary that would inevitably get him indicted. After Teddy's meeting with Richard, he called Sir Reginald and instructed him to gather Lady Penelope and Richard at the Sinclair mansion. The grand hall of the Sinclair mansion was still, inert, the atmosphere dense with the suspect's anticipation of Teddy's conclusion. With the evidence laid out before them, he unmasked the killer, revealing it to be none other than Lady Penelope Montgomery. How did he know it was Lady Penelope? During his interview with her, he noticed a cufflink next to one of the lamps close to where she was sitting, and during his meeting with Richard, he noticed that he was wearing odd ones. You would think that a man of such vast wealth would have a choice of thousands of cufflinks, but these particular ones held significant sentimental value to Richard, as they belonged to his deceased father, who he revered. Penelope had betrayed her friend Veronica to protect her lover, Richard. She was very much privy to some of Veronica's prying into Richard's affairs and intoxicated with jealously getting wind of Richard's pass at Veronica at the charity gala. However, she was unaware that Richard's advances were unwanted. Lady Penelope's cathartic planning and cunning allowed her to carry out the murder without any sign of struggle or resistance. Her deep-seated obsession with Richard and her burning desire for revenge fueled her determination to execute her sinister plan flawlessly. Knowing that she couldn't afford to leave any loose ends or evidence behind, Lady Penelope spent weeks studying Veronica's routines and habits, patiently waiting for the opportune moment to strike. She noticed that Veronica often retired to her study in the evenings to work on her personal projects and investigations related to her charities. One fateful evening, Lady Penelope saw her chance. She had arranged for a distraction elsewhere in the mansion, drawing the attention of the butler and staff away from the study. With the path cleared, she silently slipped into the room, a black silk scarf held firmly in her hand. There she had hidden in the shadows, biding her time until the right moment arrived. As Veronica sat at her desk, engrossed in her work, Lady Penelope emerged from the darkness, armed with a syringe filled with a powerful paralyzing agent. She approached Veronica with a deadly calmness, knowing that her next move would seal the fate of her unsuspecting victim. With the precision of a seasoned assassin, Lady Penelope injected the paralyzing agent into Veronica's bloodstream, targeting a key nerve cluster that rendered her temporarily immobile but fully conscious. In mere seconds, the toxin took effect, leaving Veronica unable to move or speak, her mind trapped in a body that refused to obey her commands. The sheer shock of the sudden paralysis left Veronica gasping for breath, her eyes wide with terror. She desperately tried to communicate her distress, but her voice had become a mere whisper, unheard by anyone outside the room. Without warning, Lady Penelope swiftly looped the scarf around Veronica's neck, tightening her grip with controlled force. Veronica, caught off guard and unable to react in time, gasped for breath as the air supply to her lungs was cut off. Lady Penelope's actions were swift and calculated, showing a cold determination that betrayed her inner turmoil. She held on firmly, her grip unyielding, until Veronica's body went limp. The act took only minutes, but to Lady Penelope it felt like an eternity as her emotions swirled between guilt, anger, and a sense of twisted satisfaction. Once she was certain that Veronica was dead, Lady Penelope gently laid her victim on the floor, arranging the scene to appear as if Veronica had collapsed naturally. She took great care to ensure that there were no signs of a struggle or any indication of foul play. With the murder executed with chilling precision, Lady Penelope left the study as silently as she had entered. The distraction she had orchestrated earlier had kept any witnesses at bay, allowing her to slip away unnoticed. Lady Penelope's warped love-turned-obsession drove her to commit this evil act. Her web of deception and her ability to mask her true intentions had allowed her to escape suspicion for a while, But Detective Teddy Sullivan's relentless pursuit of the truth, and with a little help from an old flame and mysterious ally, unraveled the dark secrets behind Veronica Sinclair's sad end.